We cannot include this in the episode.
You're recording?
Yeah.
I'm cute.
No, you're
Look
not.
at me.
Stop
I'm
that.
so cute.
Stop that. Stop it. You're cringe.
Hi.
30-year-old man, by the way.
32.
Ew. That's not making better. All right, let's hop into this. Our first episode of the podcast. Yippee!
Yay.
Clap.
Hi. Look.
Stop
Hi.
it.
Hi. Look at how cute I am.
It was a mistake to ask you to be a VTuber. It was a mistake.
This is more fun than I thought it would be, to be honest with you.
Since we're starting off our pod, can we do a little bit of an introduction? Who are you? What's your name? Why are you important?
My name is Max. Why are you important? Justify your existence for the camera.
Do it.
Hi, my name is Max. I used to be a content creator way back in the day. This is like 15 years ago now. I used to be a content creator. When I was a teenager, I did mostly editing work, some like direct content creation, but also some editing work with, I don't know, should I say I'm going to say the company name, Machinima, back in the day.
That's just like...
Old heads will
I just did the
understand that
math.
one.
I was in middle school when you were doing this.
Well, that's just doxing your own age, you idiot.
That's fine. They know.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Well, you said Machinima.
Yeah.
Dog.
Well, I have no problem. I'm a 32-year-old man masquerading as a
Goodness.
small mochi cat boy. My dream. But yeah,
Ew.
so I used to work for Machinima, mostly as an editor. So I did a lot of editing for other talents that wouldn't have editing skills, or maybe they wanted to get into the content game but they didn't know how to. So
So
I did
he
a lot
knows
of that
ball.
stuff.
He knows how to cook is what we're trying to get across.
Yeah, I was back there at the beginnings of like content creation and making money off of the internet, and then I got out of it and went on to live a very, well, I don't want to say a normal life because I live in Japan now, but relatively speaking, like a more normal sort of like job and life. And so now I obviously just watch a lot of stuff, but I have like, I guess, a perspective on it where I used to make content, so I can't help but looking at things from that perspective as well. But like, who are you?
Me.
Explain it to me as if I don't know who you are.
I'm the owner of this channel. And that means that all my opinions are the best and the correct ones.
Did you see me like sigh in my model? I don't think it came through the microphone, but I think my model caught me sighing. But like, why do you like?
Why
so
does
you
my
have a
opinion
very
matter,
different,
guys?
Yeah, you have a
Because
very different opinion than
I
me
have like a
on stuff.
3-year track record of dissecting the VTuber sphere and talking with other commentary VTuber channel creators and looking into the backside of things and trying to get the opinions of the indie side rather than just like the overarching big streamer side and corpo side. So that doesn't give me like a higher pedestal than most people. However, I like to yap a lot, and so therefore that's enough to make this podcast.
You wouldn't be a content creator if you didn't like to yap a lot.
That's not necessarily true. You just have to have the audacity. We have different
It's
opinions.
interesting. Even though we both like VTubing, like we definitely view different spheres on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm with the indies. I rarely ever watch corpos. I got into VTubing with corpos, but as soon as I sort of became a VTuber myself and a creator myself, then I started, going on Twitter and seeing what all the other micro VTubers are doing, seeing what the new indie trend is, seeing who the big indies are. While you...
Yeah,
I
I like the big ones. I like them big.
Big
I
and
like them
juicy.
chunky.
How did we both know you're gonna make that joke? I knew you were gonna make that joke.
Yeah, so I tend to watch more of like the bigger VTubers like Hololive and I mean to a certain extent Niji Sanji, but also like some of the bigger indie. I don't know if they're called indie, but like a lot of like the Twitch stream culture stuff too. Like I don't keep up with it too much, but I'm aware of it a lot more than maybe you might be. So
like the
yeah.
guys who work with Mythic, like that
Yeah,
level of high
sure.
indie.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's so indie that like it doesn't really fit the spirit of indie, maybe. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Like when you have like 30,000 Twitch subscribers every single month. I get it, you're not with a corporation, so but you know, it's a little bit different. The scope of VTubing in general
Yeah.
has evolved a lot, for sure.
So if we're talking about like the difference between indie and corpo, one of the main factors, and I want to do a hard transition into our topic for the day, would be kayfabe.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of things that I wanted to talk about with kayfabe because it's a very popular discussion and it has been for years and years and years. But recently, it has like become a big topic on VTuber Twitter again. So I want to like dissect it, if you will.
Yeah, but I think it's important that because I don't think even you and I have the same definition of what kayfabe is.
Yeah. Dozo, please explain. What is
Oh,
kayfabe?
geez, you want me to do that? Okay.
I feel like you are the one who knows more about like the origins of kayfabe, though, not me.
Well, okay. So I think there's two aspects of kayfabe, and the first one, like where it started, I think, was people wanting to have more anonymity online. Because like VTubing as a whole was a way to separate yourself as a person and your identity from the person that people who are viewing you saw.
Yeah.
And so there was an element of like, okay, you have to distance yourself. So instead of like just putting on like a VTuber model, but it's going to be just me, why don't I create a new character, new name, create more separation between my real life? And so I think some people consider that kayfabe because obviously these people, this is not their real names, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a way they're quote unquote playing a character. But really the second part of kayfabe, which I think is more like it fits the actual definition, is how much are you actually playing a character? Right? So like, yes, of course you could present yourself as, a Sakura Mochi and all that sort of stuff. But like, am I pretending through what I'm saying that I am actually that? How much do I keep with the lore? Do I have a specific voice that I use with this character? Like, are you playing a character or are you just separating yourself from
Like
your real life
visually,
information?
yeah. Is that would be your modern day definition of kayfabe?
Yeah, I think it has those two parts.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that you can boil it down to one definition, but I think you could boil it down into two possible definitions.
I feel it's more like a spectrum, like a slider of how kayfabe do you want to be, and the definition of just hiding your physical appearance would be on the lower end.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I think in my definition, like the history, which I'm not even 100% sure on, was like as a term, kayfabe came from the WWE, right?
Yeah, wrestling.
The wrestling side, where they're like playing characters and they're going into the match completely as characters rather than who they are off the stage. And so that's the definition of the Western term. But when people correlate it to VTubers, it's mainly from like the Japanese idol sphere, which that kayfabe is different from Western kayfabe. So I don't know how much I can explain about that, though. That's like the whole cultural context.
Right, which is, that's why like I'm trying to define it within the relation to VTubers, right?
Yeah.
So like there are people very much, I mean, I don't know how much we want to get into like specific examples, but there's a lot of like, let's say there's a lot of Twitch streamers, for example, a lot of the big Twitch streamers who are very much just normal streamers who happen to use VTuber models and they have a different name. But really they don't, like, lore is so secondary. They don't really bring it up much. There's, they talk about their real lives a lot, right? They relate it back to their real lives a lot. Like, so that's one end of the spectrum. And whereas if you look at like from Niji Sanji, there's a couple of characters, like what was it, Debbie? Is one of them?
Yeah. Debbie, the ones who are super locked into the character that they are deciding to play.
Yeah, clearly they've got a voice, they've got a character, they've got like everything is related to, and sure, like the well, let's say like the person behind it, it leaks through, whether or not
Hmm.
it be their personality or whatever. But for the most part, it's like very clearly this is a character.
I think with your example with Debbie, that is like such a unique case, just simply because the model leaves it very difficult to pretend that you are a normal human.
But
You know?
have you there's a couple of other of those in Niji Sanji though. Like there's a
Yeah,
couple that are just like, I'm a dog.
there's the light version of Debbie. I don't know what her name is.
Yeah.
She debuted later, but she's also fairly.
Dun dun.
Yeah. I think so. She's also fairly kayfabe because it's
Yeah.
hard to not be when you're in a non-human, like clearly non-human avatar. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to think because the original kayfabe and like J idol culture coming into the VTuber sphere was clearly because of Niji Sanji and Hololive, like the Japanese corporations who sort of took the structure of J idols and then made it into a online digital presence.
Right, because that the aspect of putting separation between your real self and the self that you present in front of a camera, I think has roots in idol like culture,
Yeah,
right?
but in general,
So
that's
like
just like a
that makes sense.
streaming given.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there are people who very much put themselves in their entirety out on the stream, and they have no thoughts at all about you know hiding things or
Self-preservation.
changing who they are. Like they just put themselves out there. And I think even even if you look at corporate like VTubing, I'd say there's still plenty of people who very much, sure, they have lore and there's a lot of expensive model stuff that goes into it, but for the most part when you actually watch their streams, it's just they're being very open. Like to give an example, like Nerissa Ravencroft from Hololive.
Hmm.
Like she's like, let me talk about my family, let me talk about where I'm from. She's like very open about a lot of aspects of her life. And sure, yeah, it's like demon raven stuff, but like that's just a seasoning on top of an
Gimmicky. Yeah,
otherwise
yeah, yeah.
not at all kayfabe experience. So even within corpo, you have basically no kayfabe, or you have all the way up to full kayfabe.
When people get mad at that though. Wasn't she like when she
Why?
first debuted, she was like not sure if she could bring up her family, but then slowly she started incorporating it in. Weren't
Well,
people
let me tell
upset
you.
about that?
I don't know too much about the reaction to it, but what I can tell you is that she brought on her family, and the management didn't find out about that until she did like the third stream.
Yeah, I feel like
and
yeah,
then and
I
then
feel
they
like
were
that was
like,
not something okay to green lighted.
yeah, she talked about it. She was like, oopsies. Like she didn't realize it wasn't okay. So she just did it, and she brought on like her sisters or whatever. And it was like on the third time or whatever that management was like, so like
What are we doing
I
here?
see you're planning on doing this. Like maybe we should talk about this a little bit. And she's like, oh, I've done it before, so it's fine. And they went, what? So
All right. That reminds me of some of the VTuber Twitter takes that I wanted to talk about, specifically because of like the mix version of people debuting with lore and with a character and then immediately breaking it, and then what like the reaction on Twitter is, and like the sanctity of the art of VTubing and idol
okay,
culture.
that's
We must
interesting.
preserve it.
Yeah, I guess it did. VTubing, a lot of early VTubing was based off. I don't know if I could say it's based off of, but it certainly had a lot of similarities to idol culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's where that sort of association came from. But I think that's even that is mistaking the history of. Well, people talk about Hololive, right? Because that's like the biggest early company,
Yeah.
right? So like people, if they don't know their history, if they just came in 2020 when the English people came in, I mean, Hololive existed for a few years before that, and it took like 3 or 4 years into the company's like lifetime before the company was like, by the way, we're an idol company. You can actually find clips of the early Japanese side of Hololive talking about the fact that one day they were called in and being like, by the way, we're going the idol route now, and they were like, okay. But it was not something that was established from the start. They had like 2-3 generations of people come in with no semblance of we're doing idol stuff. So I think that's mistaking history. to say that it's always been like that.
So we have a few things that I wanted to show about VTuber Twitter, okay? And you don't listen to VTuber Twitter. You don't go on VTuber Twitter. So these are things.
No, why would I do that to myself?
Yeah. I unfortunately like to look at these things and go, oh, for like 2 hours every day.
I think they call that doom scrolling.
Is it doom scrolling? I just scroll and get mad? That is doom scrolling.
I think is that doom scrolling? Is that rage scrolling?
A rage scrolling, I guess. Okay, so I pulled up on my screen a bunch of I have my Twitter open that we can scroll through.
You'll just have to give me the number.
Yeah, okay, so in general, I'll give you the person who wrote it. Every so often, there's this one tweet that loves to pop off, and it's, what's your opinion about VTubing that would get you like this? And it's a picture of the guy from Tangled with all the swords. And people like to post, there's a mix of it. People like to post the most obvious, like, good, well-adjusted person in society takes, like, you know what, I think people should have a good time and not care about their models and care about their fake anime voices, right? And then there's some
popular opinion.
Complete opposite. And I don't want to say they're wrong, but they're just not rooted in...
They're fitting the what was asked, I guess, right?
I guess. It's like when you step away from the VTubing sphere and you come back and you look at these takes and you're like, whoa. Some grass needs to be fiddled. I don't want to start from the most degenerate ones. We'll go into like the light version and then slowly descend into degeneracy. Is that okay?
Thank you for easing me into it.
You're so welcome. Okay. The first tweet is from Starlight, where Starlight's like, I miss when VTubing was more kayfabe beyond the debut stream, when we could meet true mermaids and dragons. I wish more VTubers got into the fantasy and escapism of it all. These days, it goes in the polar opposite direction. Some people even saying it's an issue to get rid of. Thoughts?
Well, I'm curious about what you think about it.
Like, if we think about the origins of kayfabe, right? Where it's just like, yes, or take me for example, I'm a flower, right? I'm a licorice. What am I called?
I'm a bad friend. I don't know your lore at all.
I don't have lore.
You're a flower?
I'm a flower.
That's news to me.
You didn't know I was a flower?
No, I didn't know you were a flower.
You genuinely did. What do I look like to you?
A freak. But that's true regardless of your VTuber models.
Just a red freak. I'm supposed to be a flower. Oh my god.
Anyways, going back to the game.
What a bad friend. Okay. If we're talking specifically about my character, I'm supposed to be a yokai who I have like very basic lore. I was a regular flower, and then through all the wars from like the Heike period, I gained sentience because I soaked up all this blood, and then I wanted to talk about yokai, so I turned on a keyboard and I started typing away about yokai, and that's how I got into like YouTubing. That was like my lore. And then I just don't talk about it because how the fuck do you act as a flower?
Well, also, you just don't really do kayfabe, so that's fine.
I don't do kayfabe, but
yeah,
when we're talking about, like, from Starlight's tweet, like, I wish people would stream and talk more about, if you're a mermaid, talk about the ocean, talk about the shells you caught. Like, that's not really something that's sustainable in a live format for, like, how many minutes? Like, you can open stream and be like, guys, today I went to the Pacific Ocean, I got so many clams, and, I saw Nemo, he was out there. And then what? And then you start playing a game, and then what? How do you include your lore into the stream? So which is why I think...
That's interesting.
That's why I'm wondering, like, yes, you can have lore, yes, you can kayfabe, but then when you're actually doing the stream, how do you incorporate that? And then, do you only talk about mermaid games? Do you only play Subnautica? Like, what? Doesn't it find it limiting in a way? Or, okay.
I think that's, honestly, I didn't think about it from that perspective. The first thing that I thought of was like, oh, that's kind of like that's a very sweet thing to say. A very, like, sort of like light, like you said, like, this is just someone expressing like, oh, this would be nice if there was more of this, which for an
No,
internet
I agree.
opinion
I
is
think
like
it's cute.
crazy good.
But
Um,
if I'm
but
the
yeah,
streamer and I have to hit the streaming button, I can make a little blurb about what I did for the day as my character. But as soon as I get into the content, like the rest of the 5 hours I want to stream, does it almost feels like I don't know how to continue being that character if I'm playing a game or if I'm doing something or if I'm in a collab, you know? It almost feels restrictive.
it would take quite the acting chops,
It
to be
would.
honest, right? Like it would be a lot to maintain that. But I would say, like, even again, if we look at like the high end of the spectrum of kayfabe for like well-known popular VTubers, you know, there is a little bit of that, right? Like if there's something that like comes up that clearly the character wouldn't, again, if we're going to use like Debbie as an example,
Yeah.
that like clearly the character wouldn't have anything to do with, I think that they tend to, you know, they would still play the game as if they're a person, but like when something comes up, you know, like someone's like, "Oh, why did you miss that shot in Valorant?" It's sort of like, "Well, my arms are so small, you know, like how am I supposed to hold this gun?"
Yeah, you
Or
can
like,
say things like that.
right?
Like, you can riff off of it, make jokes about it. But, like, okay, for example, if I'm playing a horror game and I'm a flower,
Yeah.
am I supposed to act dumb? Like, what is a chainsaw? What is a crowbar? I feel like that wouldn't be fun to watch, you know? If you're constantly dumbing
Yeah.
yourself down to only what, like, a dragon should know, you'd have to be like a baby again and relearn everything modern.
I think there's an element of that that definitely makes sense. Like what you're saying about how it gets old. And I think a lot of people have ideas about content that don't survive contact with the enemy
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, um, it isn't actually entertaining for a longer period of time. That being said, I mean, we're only interpreting someone's words in a tweet, so we always have to consider like what was their actual intention.
Right.
I don't think that this person is thinking that extreme about it. I think to me it just sounds like someone who wants something more like the Debbie stuff where they're always just keeping in mind that they're not exactly playing a person, they're playing a character and that they just keep it up, right? So if they're mentioning they're like they mention you know, beyond the debut stream, so they view it as like the debut stream is good enough. And so because in a lot of debut streams, it is meant lore is mentioned a
Yeah.
lot. So it's like, I guess they just want it to keep it up and like keep it going. Again, I do agree, like in general, I think it's unrealistic. I think very few people and very few characters can actually do that. So I agree with you there.
I would
Um,
say it would
but yeah,
work for a brand, like branding all of your things in some sort of like theme and color scheme. And like the best I
right,
can give is like Calliope.
right.
Because, you know, in her actions on stream, she's kind of just the person she is with a little bit of like acting to maintain her
Yeah,
anonymity. But her whole scheme, her whole brand is very like Grim Reaper-esque. Her songs about being a Grim Reaper, her merch, the collabs, the live
but
concerts
she
are,
would never say that she's playing a character.
yeah, I mean, yeah. But
And I
like
think
for
this person wants
branding,
people. I think this person wants more people who are genuinely playing a character. Who, if you talk to them in real life, they would go, "No, no, I'm playing a character. Like that's what I do." They'd want more acting.
hmm,
But I think it's also false to say it doesn't work, because I think there's a few examples
there
of
are a
it
few
working.
examples, but those are like the very rare and far and few between. And I think the reason why they're so far and few between is because it's so difficult to maintain. Not that
Yeah,
people don't want to, it's just realistically, if you're streaming and you're constantly making content, being
yeah.
restricted into a character is fairly difficult.
I respect that this person is being the change that they want to see in the world, because it seems like they are very much I've just scrolled down and I saw
Yeah.
like one of the responses saying we are very few and far between. So that implies that they are one of the ones that play characters. And so I encourage many people, if there's something that you don't like about the VTuber sphere, go out and, you know,
Change
like
it.
be the change you want to be. Yeah.
Okay, then I want to talk about the next three. We're going down the list of Cringe.
Okay.
I sent 3 in a screenshot as well, but it's Devi, Sin of Sloth, and Chocomoth.
Okay.
Where they're talking about showing face, showing body as a VTuber, like immersion break.
Oh, that's an interesting topic, because I could see that. I could absolutely see that being contentious.
Do you really?
Yeah, I think even within my, again, like I sort of pull back from social media, but I think even within the spheres that I run in, like I would not be surprised at all if there are people who were like, I don't really like that people show themselves, and they would
Yeah.
be sort of off put by that.
Guys, I'm stupid.
Who's guys? Stop talking to
Chat.
chat. There's no chat here. It's just
Chat,
me.
I'm so stupid. I'm okay. I can't even like act and pretend that we're doing
Do you want me to do it?
No. I think I'm just gonna keep in the previous recording. Guys, we had an issue with my PC. It's been cutting out. So every so often I have to cut the stream, and because I'm scared my PC's gonna crash on me.
Don't leave this in. Fuck this. Don't leave this in.
Why not?
No, you're breaking the immersion.
You're breaking my immersion. I'm breaking the kayfabe.
Yeah, you're breaking
That's
the kayfabe.
on brand for me, though. The next tweet, we're talking about VTubers shouldn't reveal their faces. Okay, this is from Devi.
Yeah.
VTubers shouldn't reveal their faces willingly. The immersion break really kills the vibe, especially when you do it constantly. I don't think it makes you a VTuber anymore, just a grifter. I have so many things I want to talk about like grifting and tourism and why that's
we're
like
not going into that.
We're not.
That's bait. That's bait right there. Yeah, that is. This is a classic internet opinion.
I'm gripping my toes.
Which is like, I have an opinion. It's rooted in very real emotions. I'd like to talk about them. Anyways, here's my last sentence where I throw in something incredibly inflammatory. For no good reason.
No, I hate it. I mentioned VTuber tourism at one point because there are people that capitalize as creators on the VTuber industry while not being VTubers. That is what I feel is a tourist, not people who are newly introduced into the VTuber market and don't know things yet.
You're being baited.
So
stop being baited. Stop being baited. No, talk about the tweet.
God,
okay. There's not the 3 words at the end of the tweet. Let's talk about IRL stuff.
Okay.
Because you do IRL stuff.
I do IRL stuff, and when I move to Tokyo, I'm going to go to Asakusa and get an iPhone, so I can use that iPhone function where you can put your 3D head onto your in real life body just to like be anonymous, and that way I can do like in real life stuff without worrying about my face being shown. But what they're saying is making me not a VTuber if I do that, which I think is fucking stupid. Don't laugh. You're gonna make me cry.
This could be a case study on rage baiting.
Rage baiting me?
Yeah, because you got so rage baited, and so now even when we're talking about the topic, now you're heated.
I'm huffy. I'm upset.
So, look, this is someone who doesn't want VTubers to show their IRL selves because there's an element of like immersion break, as they said, right? And I think there's a few things that go into that. So first of all, there is an element of like, there was a period of time, and I think it's kind of gone away, but there was a period of time where really popular IRL streamers started to play around with the idea of getting themselves a VTuber model.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of YouTube viewers, well, first of all, IRL viewers are kind of off put by that a little bit, but also VTuber viewers like were kind of off put by it as well, because it felt like you were encroaching on a different space.
It felt like it was culture appropriation.
Right. So there's that aspect, but I think that's sort of it was a short-term thing that went away. I think another aspect of it is there are a lot of people who were introduced to streaming or who only really like streaming through the culture that VTubing
was
created
at that time.
Well, but also I think the
is now.
vibes of VTubers tend to be a little bit different than the vibes of IRL streamers. So there's
Right.
lots of people who, again, wouldn't really be into a lot of IRL streamers, but then fell in love with VTubers and that sphere. And when you have more and more VTubers doing IRL stuff, it feels like there are people pulling it back in that direction towards the IRL streaming. And I think there's a very natural hesitance about that because it feels like, oh, we're taking this thing that I really liked and we're changing it into a thing that I didn't like. If this opinion is coming from someone who has a lot of power, right? Someone who is in charge of one of the VTubing companies or someone that has a lot of influence in a certain sphere in a community, right? Then it's something that I think is worth getting up in arms about because it's sort of like this person could influence the idea of what this community would be. But, and no offense to this person, they are just as much as this as I am, but this person is a random person on the internet with an opinion who is answering a very legitimate thing, which is, hey, give me an opinion people don't like, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I think it's important to look at that and be like, your own reaction to this tweet is going to be based upon you're afraid. Actually, you know what? I think this is really interesting. If you have an extreme reaction to this tweet, you are expressing the same emotion as this tweet is expressing.
Yeah, just in the opposite
right?
direction.
Exactly. It's like you are afraid, because you're afraid if suddenly the gatekeepers influence the communities where now we can only have, VTubing directly, like VTubers directly related to Japanese idol culture. Well, now that'll change in a direction that you don't like either.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is not to say that this person is reasonable and that we should follow them or anything like that. But my point is, this is an opinion from someone random online. And so we should treat it as such. Go, wow, that's interesting. I don't agree with that. Moving on.
You're too offline, dude. You're too...
I've never received such a wonderful compliment in my life.
You have human, well-adjusted to society takes that I am just too chronically online to have.
And that's why I'm here.
Dude, it's almost like a slap in the face. Where it's like,
I don't think you realized how much you got rage baited.
I got rage baited so hard. Like, why am I upset about this? All right, so the next tweet I wanted to talk about is from Desperado. It's VTubing is directly related to Japanese idol culture and the portrayal of a character by the streamer. That character can and will be informed by your personality, but it can't just be you behind an avatar. Anyone not adhering to this model shouldn't be classified as a VTuber. And then there's a screenshot of like the core principles of being a VTuber.
I love that, by the way. I love the screenshot, which is like, it's almost like a way to like, look, I have authority. I screenshotted either what someone else said or what I said, but in a different
here's the rules.
Place.
Okay, should I read it?
Yeah, sure.
Can I read it in like an obnoxious voice?
No, just read it.
Okay, number 1. Core idea. The constructed persona. Japanese idol culture is built around performers playing a carefully managed character rather than presenting their raw private selves. Idols often have stage names, defined personality traits, and rules about public behavior to preserve the image. VTubers work the same way. The avatar isn't just a mask, it's a character with lore, mannerisms, catchphrases, and boundaries between the performer's real identity and the public persona.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think it's really funny that this tweet, in my opinion, is written with the same format that I just called out in the last tweet, which is to say that there is there's an opinion here that I would consider like it could be a very reasonable opinion to have, even if I don't agree with it, right? Like at its core, it's sort of like, I believe that VTubers should be this way, or that VTubers are better in this particular fashion, right? That is close to idol culture. But it's written, like that opinion exists in there. And then it's sort of like, you can see it at the beginning, and in the middle it starts to get away from it a little bit, and then it ends with a sort of like very extreme,
like a hard take.
thing.
Yeah.
So it's really funny because it's like almost the exact same form. Like this, I see this so often online. And to anybody listening to this, don't get baited by that. Like, you don't have to fall for that. This is, it's just baited. Not it's not. You did get paid. it we're gonna discuss it. I would rather discuss it from the perspective of not taking the extreme view of it.
That's so
Because I
hard
don't
for
think
me to do. It's so hard for me to separate like just how aggressively strict they are about this thing because I don't agree with it personally. And then to have it be
right.
like, okay, let's think about it in like the antithesis of my own opinion. Is it something I can sympathize with? And it's like really hard to.
Well, so okay, so let's start with the extreme part of it, right? Like anyone not adhering to this model that this person seems to arbitrarily have shouldn't be classified as a VTuber. So like this is an example of gatekeeping, right?
Big time.
Like this is a very natural sort of gatekeeping behavior. And I think it's important for people to understand that like gatekeeping is not a healthy way to have like a fandom or a community, right? But it's very, very common. So you'll see in every single community there will be gatekeepers, right? Like you, in order to be a part of this community, in order to classify as this, it must be this.
But that like revolves around, is there a centralized VTuber community versus is it not a centralized VTuber community? And we decided not to talk about that whole can of worms, but
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
why can't someone want to be an anonymous creator and use a VTuber model or a VTuber mask?
Well, the answer is they can, right?
They can,
and
but
many people do.
It's like an absolute like death sentence. Like you're not a VTuber. You're just a tourist. You're just someone here to like take the money of actual VTubers. Yes, there are VTubers and other creators that adhere to this, and they're in their own little side, and those people who have this opinion will watch those creators and will not watch people like me who want to maybe shed the 2D or the 3D models almost completely and do like outside streams. And there's people who agree with me and will only watch me and not watch those people. So like we have our own little niche communities, which is why I think
and they can all coexist.
Yeah, they can all coexist. So like this whole this whole conversation about Kayfabe is literally just like, for you and for me, we have different areas and they're both okay.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm not concerned about this tweet is because think about the reality of VTubing, right? The reality of VTubing is there are different spheres and they coexist and they mingle or they stay separate, but all of those things exist, right? So clearly, even though people hold this opinion that it should only be one way, clearly that opinion's not winning because the reality is that there are lots of different, things out there. And so, okay, that was that part of it. Is that like sufficient for you to get it out of your system to deal with the extreme part? Or is there anything else you want to say on the extreme part? Or can we go into like just talking about idle stuff in general?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the idle stuff because I feel like that's something not really talked about in like the current day and age of VTubers.
Right.
Because it happened way at the very beginning when the meta was what Hololive was doing.
I mean, yeah, it still is the case for, like, for example, Hololive. Hololive is very explicitly a virtual idol company. Right?
Yeah. They're explicitly idols, whereas Nijisanji or Vshoujo weren't explicitly idols. I think the biggest person people like to talk about, like, you're not a real VTuber, is Kason, simply because she does a mix of both. She does a lot of off-stream without her VTuber model, and then she does some with her VTuber model, but then also doesn't kayfabe at all. So it feels like this person's description of the avatar is just a mask.
If I can very quickly just like as a side comment, the absolute gall of people to say anything to Kason with all of the things that she has done in order to grow the, like, people don't know how much she did to help the English VTubing sphere get started.
Yeah.
Right? Like she did such a huge amount for that. And so it's very like it's very funny to me that someone's like, well, but she's not a real VTuber. And I'm like,
She's like
dog,
the OG.
75% of your Oshis probably wouldn't exist or be as big without
Yeah.
her. So how about you sit down and shut the fuck up a little bit?
Like, she's the trendsetter. She started the English interest in VTubing.
Right.
And once she left and she started doing her mix of in real life and VTubing stuff, that was also like a trend that she started, where people started to look at that and being like, that's something we can do. Like, we don't have to be adhering to the meta of never showing our face, only adhering to the Japanese idol culture and Kayfabe stuff.
And this is what I mean by, like, you should care about the opinions of people who have power.
Yeah.
I want you to think about this, right? Think about top 10 most popular English-speaking VTubers, right? Just, it can be whatever you want, but everybody at home, and you can think about it as well, who are like the top 10. Now, I want you to imagine someone asking that person, do you think Kason is a VTuber? I guarantee you, everybody you're thinking of right now would say, of course, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think about that and I go, well, those are the people arguably whose opinion matter way more than some rando on Twitter, right?
You get snaps for that.
Hell
Good argument.
Yeah. Wait, do I have a good? I don't have a good emote for this.
No, don't use emotes. Stop waving.
Hi. I do want to talk about idol stuff because I am a big Call Life fan, right? And so I find myself watching a lot of, like, quote unquote idol VTubers. And I think it's really interesting from the perspective of kayfabe because idols are the closest thing to pro wrestling, right? Like, they're very pro wrestlers, right? And so, like, kayfabe came from pro wrestling. And so idols are like one of the, like, shining examples of kayfabe.
Yeah.
And people know it and people understand it and people don't have a problem with it, right? People who like idols, like Japanese idols or Korean idols or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, they understand that that's just a part of the thing, like pro wrestling. And you like K-pop a lot.
Yeah.
And so you've experienced a lot of
I understand the kayfabe and
right?
K-pop, of course.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting because, you know, I'm not necessarily someone who thinks that way, but I think one of the things is that VTubing and playing a character is very unique, right? Like, we had streaming before with real people who talked about real things, right? So VTubing was sort of this, like, distinct thing where you could do a bunch of fun things that you couldn't do when you were a streamer. Like, it's sort of cringe. I guess it's not impossible, but it's sort of cringe to be like, walk on stream and be like, I am not this person, I am a magical fairy. And it's like, oh god, what is this person who is showing their face doing, right? But, like, when you have VTubing, it's like you could do that because the only thing that you know about this person is what you see on the screen, and what you see on the screen is a pink sakura mochi ball.
Ew.
So, like, I think that some people maybe had a vision for what that could be. I mean this in the nicest way possible, but I think a lot of the people who like that thing are kind of theater kids. And that's not an insult. Don't take it as an insult. But I think a lot of people would love to have a stage where they could show off their acting skills, or they could act, or maybe some people really like that content where people are acting like certain things.
Yeah.
Right? You know, people love TV shows that have characters in them, and it would be weird if the character was, like, clearly just a voice actor or voice actress, right? Like, you want that character to be believable. And so I think people find the concept interesting to be like, well, what if it was like a TV character, but they were live streaming? Isn't that cool? I could see it.
I can see it. And, you know, I'm a creative writer. I have a whole college degree in creative writing. Like, I know my way around fantasy and world building and thinking about how cool it would be to live in, like, an alternate universe and have all these, like, crazy cool characters to meet. I understand that. But as someone who, like, makes the content and have the reality of people watching you in a live setting, I just find it difficult. For me. That's the key of everything. It's for me.
I mean, everything that we talk about on this show, nothing that we ever say should be taken as we think this is the way that it should be and the only way it should be.
Yeah.
Right? We're expressing opinions just like the people that we show.
But
And the people that we show have just as much of a right to say their opinions, right?
Yeah, but I that's why I just can't think of the backside and the logistics of it all, of being a complete character in a live stream setting. If you're doing a scripted thing like theater kids, they have a whole script and they can practice and practice.
But lots of people like to do improv too. I think there is a small tiny element in here too. I wonder where some people might just think like, just don't be lazy. And what I mean by that is like, put in some modicum of effort to create an atmosphere, right? Create an environment that matches. And so like, I'm sure people who hold these opinions, if you talk to them about some examples of VTubers who actually don't act like the character at all, but at the very least, like, you know, their sort of stream branding is sort of within there, and you know, they tried not to go too much into the real person and things like that. Like, they would probably be fine with that. They just don't want someone to walk in and be super lazy and be like, I'm a VTuber just because I have the VTuber model, but I actually have nothing to do with anything. Again, I don't necessarily agree with that opinion, but I wonder if that's an element of it as well.
Probably. It's hard to take people in like the lightest form of an opinion because so many people online are off the deep end in opinions, you know?
I think people, we saw two examples today that was, I think people are just bad at expressing opinions in a way that doesn't come off as confrontational. I think that's a huge problem with how people communicate through text and communicate on the internet, and most people don't do a very good job of it. But I think it's important for those of us who can do that to also not get trapped in an argument with someone who might just want to be expressing an opinion but doesn't necessarily do it in the exact way that we want them to.
I will say I will agree. I'll agree. I feel like
whether or not you can do it is a separate story.
I feel like I'm coming off as like very hyper aggressive in the opposite direction of as like kayfabe, specifically because me as a brand, I won't do kayfabe because I can't. But I'm trying to like understand that point of view, and I recognize people want that sort of fantastical isekai space in a live stream setting. And you would
never stop someone if that existed, right? You would never be like, nah, but they shouldn't do that.
No, I think that's perfectly valid, and I would actually think much higher of that person, that streamer, to be able to do the things that I clearly can't do, right?
Yeah.
I just don't like when people, again, marginal voice, no reason to like follow their opinion, but I hate seeing it over and over and over that I'm the people who aren't putting in the effort to be kayfabe are not VTubers. I just don't like it. I just don't like it.
That makes sense. Well, I think we had a good discussion today. For those of you listening out there, I think it would be interesting if there is anybody who finds themselves liking kayfabe stuff a little bit more, or if there's a VTuber who does a lot of that. I'd be curious to hear their perspective as to why they happen to enjoy that. Because, like, I think you and I guess I'm more accepting of it than you. Yeah. But in general, I don't feel strongly about it at all. Like, I tend to fall into like watching people who I would say are like a 3 out of 10 on kayfabe most of the time.
Same. I would say similar, like on the lower end of kayfabe. Then, okay, you know what? Let's turn it into something positive. If you have some person, streamer that you really like that does a lot of kayfabe in these ways of like completely removing themselves from reality and playing a character, recommend them, drop their link, because whenever I see these posts, I never see a follow-up tweet being like, hey, by the way, here's this really cool indie that I like that adheres to my ideals of a VTuber. So people are acting like they don't exist. You could turn this into a positive. Yeah.
Right? Like you could be like, hey, like I really like this thing and these people do it really well and I wish that there were more people like them. That's such a positive way of
let's spin this to a good way, you know?
For the record, I would say the channel that does kayfabe the most that I happen to like, and I'm surprised that I like them this much, but I love Fuamoko. Like
Fuamoko's
and they're like very kayfabe. Like it's extremely kayfabe, but there's something about their energy and sort of like the wholesome persona that they play is incredibly nice. And so I think that is an example of kayfabe that I really, really enjoy.
I like how easily they fall into it too. Like, it doesn't feel like they're forcing it. They enjoy doing it, and they're incorporating their in real life personalities into that sort of fluffy, airheady,
yeah, they clearly love it. And I think that comes through. Like, there's a genuineness to it where it's like, yeah, we're playing characters, but we also really, really want to.
Yeah, I think they're cool. I've been getting a lot of... I lost my TikTok account for some reason, so I had to make a new one. And since I made
someone's trying to save you. Hold on. Someone out there is trying to save you from yourself. You should follow their advice and never look at TikTok.
That was... this was supposed to be a nice thing. You ruined it. No, okay. I made a new, fresh TikTok account, and Fuamoko started appearing on my TL, and I never get VTuber clips, usually in my previous one. So seeing like the most recent, Fuamoko syncing up and being like twins, I thought that's so cool, because that's not an act. That's part of their real life. Like, you can't fake that.
They say they hate it.
That's
they
cool
can't
as hell.
Fake it. Yeah.
But then they're also syncing up in their kayfabe, like the things that they say as kayfabe, and they're syncing on that. I just think that's mind blowing.
Yeah, they're cool people, and I very much support them.
So I think it's an art that I can't do, and I appreciate, but it's not something that I want for every single VTuber. That's my stance. I don't know if that was clear in the previous couple of minutes.
I think we've said it 5 or 6 times now, so we could probably just end.
Well, I don't know how much I'm cutting. But I don't want people to walk out of this episode and think like, oh, Liko is so anti-kayfabe, and like, here's Max schooling them about it. It's like, listen, guys, I appreciate it too.
Wow. You're going to have to learn how to not give a shit about other people's opinions.
But I want people to like me. I want people to say subscribe to me. Stop.
There we go. They're gonna look at that face and they're gonna subscribe.
You know what? I wasn't even tapped into OBS,
Zoom in on the face.
I knew your silence would have done a stupid thing. Stop it.
Zoom in on the face.
No.
If you don't subscribe. I can't make that joke.
I'm gonna just,
Never mind.
Okay, that's the end of the episode. I don't know. Let's end it on this before we get any stupider.
Bye-bye. Wait, bye-bye. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
We'll come back for episode 2 probably, maybe sometime. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.